la première équipe.
OK.
Anglais.
Each team has 20 minutes to present its case to the jury. The time is indicated on the timer as a countdown. I will indicate the time remaining in poster. If you do not end your presentation after 20 minutes, it will be stopped to move on to the period of question. A period of questions of a maximum duration of 5 minutes is assigned to the jury at the end of the presentation. I would like to remind each judge that it is mandatory to ask at least one question during this period. Please note that you cannot reveal the name or your source of your university, as you may be disqualified. I would like to ask the jury to turn off the ringing of your cell phone. I will now invite the judge to introduce themselves. Je vais maintenant laisser les juges se présenter et ensuite vous pourrez débuter votre présentation.
Catherine Baudry, professor at University of Quebec at Rimouski.
Chantal Lamotte, Human Resources VP at Jean Coutu.
Michel Turner, Senior Director of Organizational Development and Talent Management, Metro Inc.
Good morning, Eric Côté, Vice President, Central Procurement, Metro.
So good morning. Today we'd like to start off by telling you a story about our friend Hannah. So Hannah was an only child. She got all her family's attention and all the love all the time. And one day, Hannah was at a family brunch, and her aunt came up to her and said, "Hannah, are you excited about becoming a big sister?" Hannah was so confused. She had no idea what was going on. So she went and asked her dad, "Dad, what is my aunt talking about? Am I becoming a big sister?" Her dad was a little shocked with that because he and his wife hadn't had the opportunity yet to tell Hannah that she was going to become a big sister. So he sat her down and he said, "Yes, Hannah, it's true. You're going to have a little sister or brother." Now, Hannah was pretty nervous. She didn't know what to expect. She was worried that she would lose all her family's attention. Would she have to share her toys? Would her sibling constantly follow her around and copy her? She didn't know what to expect, and she was pretty nervous.
Donc, merci les exécutifs du métro. Moi, je suis Sophie, c'est Bernie et René. Et maintenant, on va vous donner des recommandations. So to start, here is our agenda. So we're going to go over the current situation, as well as moving into the opportunity statement, then what we've picked for our criteria to make a recommendation, as well as a recommendation, and finally, financials and a wrap-up. So currently, there's an acquisition of two strong companies, Jean Coutu and Metro as well. And there's uncertainty about the futures, and this is for employees and customers, as well as there's big restructuring with both organizations. And there's also very different IT systems within both of these organizations.
So today we're here to present to you our recommendation. And by implementing the Together is Better strategy, you will be able to provide a seamless integration of the two companies while upholding the independent cultures and values of each company. And this may be challenging, however, we believe that this will be able to be done through our strategy. And employees will also remain motivated, and they're going to be able to learn new strategies of working on things, streamlining things, and making things more efficient and better for consumers by learning through each other. And this will also help retain 85 to 90% of our current employees from both companies throughout this transition process. So we don't want to have to let a lot of people go, and we're going to dive into this deeper further on into our presentation. And furthermore, we believe that this will be able to increase our revenue by $256,000 to $268,000 just initially. So this is the first year with all of the implementation strategies that we have to go through.
So when making a decision how to best go about your acquisition, we have to take into account your key stakeholders. So first of all, that's your employees. We know that both Metro and Jean Coutu place a great value on employee comfort, employee satisfaction, and retention, of course. So we need to take into consideration that your employees value their job security, transparency between upper levels of management and themselves, and many job opportunities, whether that be moving, whether that be moving up in the companies, and so on. Then we take into account your customers. They value experience, the customer experience, both online and shopping in store, the quality of your products, and of course efficiency when they're shopping and when they are making any contact with your brand. And then of course there are your shareholders. Now they value profits, they value your company's reputation, both that of Metro and Jean Coutu. Now these are two companies that are well known, especially in Quebec, but also Metro as a whole all over Canada, with strong reputations and brand images, which is another key value that your stakeholders and shareholders consider.
So moving on, there are some things within the two organizations that we want to keep independent, and there's some that we believe should be consolidated. So first of all, we're going to touch up on the things that we believe should remain independent, and these are culture, brand, as well as product distribution. And so the reasoning behind this, there are a bunch of reasons, but the main things that we wanted to highlight are familiarity. So when you are a customer and you walk into your grocery store, you know where the aisles are, you know where to find what you want, and you're familiar with the colors, the brand of this organization. And so we really wanted to keep the familiarity as well as continue leveraging how strong these two brands are, and continue to cater to the loyal customers of both organizations. And so this moves on into customer retention. We want to continue keep all of our loyal customers, as well as we believe this is going to help improve or remain keep the high quality of the products of both stores, because there are already very implemented and great distribution channels for both, and because these two companies have slightly different types of produce and products. So for example, at Metro, we value our high quality foods, and so through the distribution channels of making it very specialized to Metro, that will keep the food fresh, as well as for Jean Coutu, there is their specialized distribution channels, so we believe those should stay for the overall quality of both companies.
Moving on from that, some things should also be consolidated, so merged together. And things that are included are payroll systems, IT databases, especially those for pharmaceuticals, so that no customer is left behind and everyone has information to all to provide the best quality and service for the customers. Also, the environment, health, and safety policies, all of those should be kept equal so that everyone has equal working conditions, as well as it's kept the best standard. And on top of that, employee benefits. Since Jean Coutu and Metro probably have different employee benefits that are offered to their employees, they should be picked whichever is most favorable to the employees, and then that one is going to be the one for all. And by keeping some things consolidated, it will make it more unified for the employees as well as for the customers, keeping a uniform shopping experience, as well as transparency will be increased. And this is highly important because the employees are kind of taken back that it was released by a competitor versus the company itself. And so this will help show that the company is trying to be transparent, as well as provide a sense of community and fairness for all. And this is with the policies that will be the same, as well as benefits that no one company will get better benefits than the other one. So as you can see, here is the organizational structure that we have created. So at the top, it would be the CEO of Metro, and this would be more of the parent company, and then reporting to him or her would be the VPs of marketing, finance, and all the different divisions that there are, as well as the Jean Coutu CEO who will report to him or her. And then under that, it's the VPs at Jean Coutu, and so on.
So moving into our main strategy, which is the Together is Better strategy, we have 3 key components that are in the overarching strategy. So the first one is that we want to keep the brands, the culture, and the employees separate, in a sense that they're going to continue working and the brands are going to continue operating as they are currently. And so we're going to touch up on that later. The second key pillar of our strategy is that we want to create this brand association between the 2 organizations, in particular Metro as well as Jean Coutu, and we're going to go into that further later as well. And the third key pillar is that there's going to be a global shift communications plan that we want to implement that is really going to keep this transparent and keep everyone in the loop, and so that they are more on board with the changes that are going to happen and impact them in the future.
So to start, Together is Better branding. So we're going to keep the brands separate as mentioned previously, but the parent company will have, which is Metro, will have the overarching decisions, and these have to be in line with Jean Coutu's values as well, so that both companies are running seamlessly and providing best quality for their customers and employees. As well, with that in mind, we're going to have to implement new ERP systems to create a flow of information that is seamless throughout both companies, and that way everyone is well aware of what's going on, as well as very more transparent. And then also, as mentioned before, the payroll will be consolidated, and so this will mean that people within the same ranking will get the same pay, and that way it creates more fairness for both of the companies. And then Jean Coutu will be centralized and have its autonomy over pharmaceuticals, whereas if they have decisions to do, they will make it themselves, and then if there are any bigger issues, then they will obviously advise Metro and make sure that everything is going as planned and make sure that everyone's on board, more of a consensus. And so an example of this is actually Stackpole International. Stackpole International was recently acquired by Johnson Electric, which is located in Hong Kong. So as you can imagine, their policies and corporate cultures are a little different. So that's why they decided to act as 2 separate brands, but still they have the same uniform company policies and all that in order to make sure that everything is running seamlessly and that everyone is on board.
So moving on to the second part of our strategy, so this is a key component, and we really want to build the association. So we want to build the association between Metro and Jean Coutu, like that of Starbucks and Indigo. So when you walk into a Starbucks, or when you walk into an Indigo, there's like always like a Starbucks or something nearby, or they're incorporated into the same store. Similar, again, is Walmart and McDonald's. So a lot of Walmarts will have McDonald's inside. And for a consumer, your perception is that they are 2 different companies, so you're keeping them independent brands. However, when consumers go there, they think of, you know, they're associated, and when I go to one, I can see the other. And we believe that this is a great choice for the association, because we know that Metro is also associated with like Première Moisson and Super C, but those we believe this is the best fit because like they do have different products. Jean Coutu is a lot more like a Shoppers Drug Mart in Ontario. They're known for their pharmacy as well as small things that you need on a daily basis. For Metro, we really want to leverage the fact that it's like fresh produce as well as also home use products. So that's why we believe this would be a strong association and partnership of the 2 brands to the consumer's eye. And so we believe this will also help with the brand recognition because they are both really strong brands. You're going to be able to leverage both customer bases. So when one customer walks into one store, they're going to be able to see, you know, like, I can also get this here, or it's just more convenient for the customer. So we think that it's going to be a great decision. Also, we would like to implement the pharmacies in particular of Jean Coutu in Metro, similar of when you walk into a Costco and there's a pharmacy, or when you walk into like Starbucks, there's an Indigo. And so we believe this will help make the smoother transition because they will be working together. So we want the pharmacy to fall under Jean Coutu's overarching hierarchy and for them to oversee it. And we believe that this is going to help the transition of training employees, the databases. It should be consolidated. So when one customer goes to one store and they have their prescription, it should be consolidated over all of the different Jean Coutus or metros. If there is a pharmacy in that particular metro, it would be converted into a Jean Coutu. We believe that it should be branded also as well as a Jean Coutu. So this will not be very costly. So it's really just taking the existing pharmacies that are in Metro and just rebranding them as Jean Coutu. And so existing customers will not really be impacted because their information will still be there, as well as new customers will see that, you know, this is where I go, this is another Jean Coutu, and I'm able to get my prescription there. And so another key point that we really want to drive home is that this is going to create a positive image of a partnership and not ownership of another company. So it's really just the association that I can find them both there.
So the key components have been addressed, and now it's about implementing it and conveying it to your employees, really harping in on that transparency component that is so crucial to a smooth transition and a successful acquisition. So the first step is going to be sending out emails from the CEOs of both Jean Coutu and Metro to all of your employees, just to let them know about what we're doing here, about our strategy, and about the acquisition in general. And the second step is going to be meetings held by both CEOs together, and that's going to include HR representatives and your HQ employees from both companies, again, addressing what's going on, any questions or concerns they may have, and kind of going through the timeline of how this process is going to run and why you are doing it. Then you're going to have a similar meeting held by both CEOs again with the HR employees and the pharmacist specifically, given that the acquisition really affects that division. Then there's going to be an HR bonding event, and that's going to be a cocktail evening most likely, where the HR divisions from both companies can get to know one another, because they're going to be working together and they are going to really ensure that smooth transition across the companies. Then there will be the pharmacist intensive training program. That's mainly to get the Metro pharmacists adjusted to the Jean Coutu technology that they're going to be using in their jobs. And that will be run by Jean Coutu general managers, those that are familiar already with the technology, so that it can be a smooth transition and within the company, which will help with bonding as well. Then we're going to have Metro VPs work at the Jean Coutu headquarters twice a year for 2 years, and that's just going to be for a week in those 2 years. And the purpose of doing this is to really make sure that it's integrative, even though the brands are separate. It's creating that work environment that is consistent between both companies and ensuring that their values and motivations are in line with each other. And then finally, there's going to be the follow-ups, and that's going to ensure that this is a successful process. HR representatives are going to meet with the pharmacists regularly. There are going to be quarterly meetings between HR, HQ, and of course the CEOs in order to ensure success, transparency, and the like.
So moving on to finances, we do realize that there are costs associated with consolidating the overall ERP systems as well as the payroll systems and the bonding activities. So for the ERP systems, we believe that it's going to cost around $100,000 to $200,000. So this is for 1 year. But for integrating the systems, this is only going to be initially because once you have the system set up, there aren't going to be incurring costs like in the future years. So for HR bonding, we have $1,000 to $2,000. Opportunity costs, we believe that there's going to be $25,000 to $50,000 of opportunity costs, and this is because for the training of implementing the different companies and integrating them, we wanted to, for the different employees to help train them on their different services on how they work on things. So for example, in Jean Coutu, they use the iPads to fill out the prescription. So this would be one of the ways that they would train them. And as a total, so the cost as well as our savings, we have our totals of $254,000 to $268,000 per year of savings.
So now you can see the timeline for implementation. We are going to start in 2017 with the acquisition. Spring 2018, get your approval, then moving on to begin the communication plan, which will continue seamlessly, begin branding the Metro pharmacies as Jean Coutu pharmacies, and then finally implementing the new ERP and payroll systems. So we really want to leave you with some key ideas after our presentation today. We are going to continue operating the two brands as separate brands, but associating them together to really create a strong connection wherever you go, looking at both Metro and Jean Coutu, knowing that they're partners, but at the same time separate. Then we are going to increase efficiency while maintaining customer satisfaction and of course retention. Again, that goes back to not only the transparency within the companies, but branding them as separate entities with association. And finally, employee motivation is going to be increased during this process. So just to take you back to our friend Hannah. Once she found out that she was going to become a big sister, after being nervous, her parents implemented their own strategy and she realized that this was going to be a great opportunity for her as well to become a big sister. So thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you going forward.
Yes.
Thank you. The presentation has come to the end. The question period will begin. I would like to remind the jury that at least one question must be asked and that one question period is not longer than 5 minutes.
I look to your financial model. That's a good thing to include savings because shareholders are looking to this in the future for sure. Could you just explain where you find the savings in the rest of the presentation? I wasn't sure where the savings were coming from.
Yes, for sure. So we thought that the customer retention would help. This would be more profit, so we would be able to leverage the different brands and really create more traffic and profits that way. And the second part would be future cost savings from the ERP system. So once the system and payroll is implemented, it's going to be way easier to communicate between the two, as well as you won't be creating databases or data for different things. You won't be reinventing the wheel, basically. So everything will be integrated.
When you think about your structure, do you feel that the structure that seems to be completely separated is the more efficient to realize savings or synergies, which is the terms that shareholders use, in that kind of strategy, in that kind of integration?
Yes, because both companies have a really strong brand, and actually to retain customers, it costs 6% more to get new customers than it does to retain your old customers. So by changing your brand, you will probably lose customers just because they're not going to be like they're not going to know exactly what it is. And they're going to be more hesitant, being like, why did you change it? I liked the way it was before. So if you keep your brand, we think that customers are more inclined to shop at their existing, and they already have experience with it. They've both been over 70 years of being companies, and so for that reason, we believe that this is the best strategy for both of them.
Thank you.
You don't talk about labor relations. So what's about unions?
So the unionization process is, it's of course up to the companies, and we saw that there is consideration for unionization. Now, that we wanted to wait to get into once we've already conveyed our better together strategy to you, and of course implemented it within the companies. Once we kind of explain this overarching process, it'll be easier to make a decision on unionizing because the first step in all of this is just getting settled and doing that, making that acquisition, setting up the pharmacies individually before we can even dive into the question of unions and what would be the best idea in that sense, especially given that Jean Coutu is private, whereas Metro is currently public.
So you have three main pillars for your strategy. Who do you see in charge to implement those pillars?
So when referring to those three pillars, it's up to HQ and HR and the CEOs working together in order to implement those things. And there's different areas that each will be more in charge of, so to speak. So as I outlined a little later in the presentation, there's the 7-step implementation process. So the meetings, for example, that's going to be run ultimately by the CEOs, but along with HQ and the HR staff. Getting the pharmacists trained from Metro to become more part of the Jean Coutu brand, that is ultimately a bit more internal within the Jean Coutu company, so to speak, because they will be trained to use the technology by Jean Coutu staff, and it's also a big role of HR. HR is going to be really important in this entire process, just again for transparency and also for being that middleman, so to speak, between the upper levels of management and your employees.
When you talk about the 7 steps, HR bonding, could you explain who will be included in this event?
Sure, so that's going to be the HR staff. For example, in Quebec, we're going to host 1 or 2 events. Logistics-wise, it may not make sense for all of Quebec HR to be in one spot. It's a big province. But at those 2 events, it's just HR staff.
Just HR staff, perfect.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And what kind of event?
We're thinking a cocktail evening, something outside of the work environment, somewhere where people can be more relaxed and enjoy a social night. So it's about business, but it's also about just fostering relationships.
One last question.
Sorry.
Thank you. The question period is now over. It is more grand of your case presentation. Congratulations. We would like to remind everyone that we are on a silence floor. Out of respect for the other case being present, please keep quiet until we reach the first floor. Thank you for your understanding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.